worn rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years, and let her sew again.
Morning. I want to introduce you to this adorable little machine. It's called a Dynamic, and it is a little mid-century made in Japan machine. And these things unfortunately get a lot of hate in the vintage sewing machine world, but I'm actually very fond of it. I got it, at a yard sale in a dark corner, and she was pretty locked up. So, according to all that I had read in the hate about these little press tin machines, I opened it up and I was surprisingly amazed. She has a lot of components that are carried over from the Singer 15, and she's actually built pretty stoutly. But this project is not going to be so much about the machine, but the case. But I just wanted to show her to you. She has a 1 amp motor on her. I know it's not the original motor, but it does work. It does have her big foot pedal there, and she's light. So to me, this is a nice alternative for a straight stitch machine that is highly portable. I will be removing the little press tin side so you can see the workings on her in a minute. But one thing I like about this is it's easy to remove the outside casing. And this is an excellent learning machine because you can see everything. And I'll show you that in a minute. But what I'm going to be working on is her case. And she's adorable, but her case is a little bit, has seen wear. She's probably made about in the 1950s. I took a little wire wheel and knocked the rust off of the little hardware parts here last night, so those are pretty clean. And the outside cover is actually still glued on pretty well. It's just ugly, There's only one little piece down here that's a little bit frayed. I might put a little bit of glue on that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint her case. I'm going to remove her and paint her case. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off her balance wheel over here, which, is very standard. It has a little screw. And hang on a sec. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but trust me, when you see the pieces, it'll be very familiar, okay? So I got my little screw, my washer, my little wheel. Let me get a magnet to keep all of this together. So now this balance wheel can come off. And I'm going to loosen up the boss here. Now, this is not the original motor, and so it didn't fit exactly. So I had to use, well, I'll show you. I had to use some rubber washers to shim it out so that it would fit, properly and in line. Okay, so what I did is I had up against the machine a rubber washer, and then the bracket here, and then another rubber washer with a metal washer on the outside, and clamped it in that way. And that lined it up well, keep any shimmy and vibration off of it, so that was good. So now that the motor is off, it'll be a lot easier to go ahead and show you what she looks like. The front panel comes off just by unscrewing the stitch length lever. And it has, a little washer and spring on it. And this whole little front panel comes off. And you can see everything. Now, this wheel is not connected, so that won't work. But if I turn this, you can see how everything moves. You can see this is a carryover from a 15. All metal parts, yes, it's a cast aluminum, but you know, so's a featherweight in a lot of ways. So let me flip her around this side. On the back, there's a little screw here, and it unscrews easily, and the whole back panel comes off. Okay, so you can see everything, and that's why I say this is a really nice little learning machine, because you can see how everything is connected and how it moves. So yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I don't know why she's moving a little stiff here, because she was moving great a moment ago, but oh there, I think I had her on something. But anyway, that's her. The front plate is a 15 front plate. It's got the tension over here, all of that you know, you can learn about by looking up Singer 15s. So I'm just going to set this machine aside. Very lightweight, very portable. And put her over here. And I'm not going to be removing this hardware from the case. I'm just going to be masking over it. On the bottom, where the old feet were, you know, it's kind of just a mess. I'm going to be putting new feet on after I paint it. But like this, I'm going to put some tacky glue. Some tacky glue. I'll just put that on there and push this back up, and anywhere else that I see any loose fabric, I'm going to do that and let the tacky glue have plenty of time to dry before I start painting. So what I need to do is get down to the nail, and this hardened rubber stuff, I'm just picking it off with a little pick, you know, so I can reach the nail underneath. And once I do that, I got my little bitty nippers here that I can reach around that nail and pull it off. So now I have a little hole that I'm going to put a touch. You can see here. I think I did that off camera, sorry about that. These are my little nippers that I pulled the nail off. So now I can just put a little touch of tacky glue over that little area in case anything got pulled loose. I think that that will work well. So I'm going to do the whole thing again right here. Hopefully this one will be a little more visible. Right, just picking off that brittle, ancient rubber. Oh, and as far as the year, I don't know the exact year, the exact age of this, but there was a piece of newspaper in the bottom here. Let me see if I can find it, because it's kind of fun. Okay, this is the little piece of newspaper that was in the bottom, probably to collect oil or something, but it's kind of fun because it's like the entertainment section. So on the back, you can see 𝐏𝐲𝐤 is being premiered. Okay, and it's from the Martin's Ferry newspaper, so that's north of here. But it's like how to watch 𝐏𝐲𝐤. To help you enjoy 𝐏𝐲𝐤, you should be seated at the start of each performance of 𝐏𝐲𝐤. You know, that's kind of fun. And over here on this side, it has other news. It says the Marilyn Monroe Clark Gable film The Misfits will be premiered in Los Angeles next month. So, you know, if I really cared, I could probably look up when that was premiered, and then I would know the age of this paper. Not saying that that's the age of the machine, but I think that since this is a mid-century machine, it's probably pretty close, you know, just for fun. But anyway, I've picked off most of the rubber from around here. And so I can get my little nippers down around that nail. There's the nail. And pull it up. Okay, so there's the little nail that was holding it on. We don't need that anymore. Touch up more glue over that spot. Anywhere else you can see I've got little glue kind of all over, inside. Everywhere that something was loose, I need to clean out this little area. And there's a hole where the little light motor block was screwed in. I'll probably put some glue in there just so that it, I have a new place to screw into or it gets covered up. So that is that. I like a lot of these cases. This one does have a slight musty, dusty kind of smell to it. So I'm wiping the entire thing down with a paper towel that I have soaked in a little bit of water combined with, Lysol concentrate, purple Lysol. And that is actually doing a great job in taking out a lot of that smell. So it also gets all the surface dirt off of it, which I don't want to be, messing with my paint. So I'm gonna mask these, give it just a little bit to dry. Hopefully by the time the tacky glue is dry and clear, and it does dry clear, you can see it's already drying, looking lovely. By the time this is dry and the Lysol should be completely dry, it should be ready to go ahead and give a first coat of paint. And because the machine has some very vibrant reds and golds and things, I'm going to try to carry that vibrancy over into this case. To the next day, and my glue is completely dry. I still need to mask off the hardware in the space here. But what I decided to do is, since this is a 50s machine, and I looked, and the Misfits premiered in 1961 in January, I think. So this was made before 1961. I'm going to call it 50s. And with that vibe, I'm going to do a red and pearly white paint coat. So this center stripe here is going to be red, and the inside of the lid is going to be red. And I might make the inside of the box red, or I might not. Haven't figured that out yet. But I have the little handle, the hardware, and this edge taped off. I'm not worrying about this. If anything gets on there, it'll just be a little overspray. So the first thing I'm going to do is coat this with a couple coats of red. So I'm going to spray it on, and let's see. This is the one I am using. It's called Regal Red, which sounds fabulous. So I'll spray a coat on, wait about 15 minutes, spray another coat. If I need more coats, I will add more coats. All right, she's got 2 coats on her for the red, for the outside, and I think that has a pretty good coverage. There was like a textured print underneath. Right there, you can see just a little. I might do a little bit more on that spot right there. But that looks pretty good. So I'm going to set this piece aside so that it doesn't get any overspray or anything on it, and start working on the base. And what I'm going to do is first give it a coat of plain white, and then once the white is good and has good coverage, I'm going to come over it with a layer of pearl. Okay, I want to show you where I am today. I painted this yesterday, so it is completely dry. This is the inside of the little top of the case. And let me lift this up. So I have the red done, basically. The outside red part is painted. And this has been a few days since I painted the outside part, so I feel comfortable that this is dry enough. I can put my blue painting masking tape over it, because I want to mask off and isolate the sides, because I'm going to paint them white. So let me grab this base over here and set it down. I painted, okay, pardon my mess. I painted this with a few coats of white, and then I came back and just painted over the white with a coat of my pearl, just for fun. And I can see a little bit of a yellowing right here. I don't know that there's anything I can do about that right now. I think that's just something from underneath that's bleeding up through. It's not terrible. It's just, it is noticeable, but it's not terrible. But the paint does clean up the box a lot. No, it's not perfect, but this is the bottom, and I am going to put new feet on it. So I am going to consider the bottom pretty well painted. I'll be going ahead to pull off my masking now. The little light motor block's going to go in there. And this machine doesn't have a light, so I'm actually considering omitting the light motor block and just doing something a little bit different with that motor. But I will be, this is actually the back of it here, I will be putting something pretty right here and on the front of the upper part of the case, so I'm looking forward to that. So next thing is I got to go ahead and get this masked off, you know, around here, just to isolate both of the sides so I can get those painted white. And I've got the one side kind of masked off here. I'm just going to do one side at a time. So this is going to take me a few days. So what I've been doing is giving the machine box 2 coats, and I'm using this one. This is the flat white, you know, 2X. It seems to work pretty well. And then after, so I spray it once, wait about 15 minutes, spray it again, wait about 15 minutes, and then come back and give it a coat of this. And then I'll let this dry overnight, and then tomorrow I will work on the other side. So the little rubber feet I use, they look like this, and came with some screws. I've been in packs of 120 on Amazon because, you know, it makes sense for me to do it that way. I'm just going to set them over in the corners and screw them in. So while my box paint is drying, I want to show you the metal here. It's got some ugliness going on. The decals are pretty, but it's got like this weird haze where the finish is just kind of shot. So I'm going to use rubbing compound. I'm just using this Meguiar's that, you know, you got at Harbor Freight kind of stuff. And at this point I can pretty much hear the apoplectic cries across the vintage sewing machine land on how in the world I can dare to put rubbing compound over decals. And my answer is, you know, you do you. This is me. If you're worried about it, test it in a small, inconspicuous area. But I really want to bring this up to a high shine and get that off. And this is actually a very quick and easy way to do it for me. So, you know, there you go. So I'm not going to let it sit too long. Yes, it does have a slight abrasive, it does have a slight chemical, but that is just enough to brighten up and shine up the finish on here. So, ooh, it's time to do another coat of paint. Let me finish wiping this off and buffing it, coat one more coat of paint on my white side over there, and I will be right back. Okay, so I got my rubbing compound off, and again I'm just using a little microfiber cloth. My finish is back to new. That is exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and put the side plates back on the machine and get her back in the base of my case. Alright, I've got her open over here, and I wanted to show you something that I've noticed with 15s, and I think it has something to do with the way that this little part here is, the rotation of it. Sometimes, and this has happened on my 1591 and another one, when you hit, you know, your controller, your foot pedal, it might not want to go. You're hitting it and nothing happens. When this little arm here is connected to this circular cam piece that is moving everything up and down here. Okay, do you see it going around? When this connection is over on the back side, it has a hard time getting started. And I've found this on my 1591 and things like that, so I don't think it's just particular to this machine. I think it's particular to this design. If you get the little arm, I know you can't see it, but there's a little connector arm right here. If it's up towards the top or the front or something, it'll start easy. Okay? But if it's over here, it's not going to. So what I would say is, if you feel like you're pushing the pedal, nothing started, honestly, just give it a turn. And that's old school. I don't know if you remember, but when I was learning on old singers and things, they always said, when you're gonna get started, turn the wheel. And so see over here, it's on the back side, and I can push, nothing's gonna happen. If I raise it up to the top and push, it's gonna go. So anyhow, that's one fun thing about this machine, is you can see everything going on in there. Oops, turning it over. And you can see how everything moves, which is kind of cool. I'll show you, while I had the camera off, I made decals for her, and on the front and back of her case, down here at the base, I put a little dynamic with flowers. I wanted flowers to kind of go along with these. You know, this has blue on it, just for fun. Those do not, but it's still lovely. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the decals on the case. All right, so I want to show you the case. And is it perfect? Absolutely not. There are some imperfections. There's like this gash right here that the paint does not cover. That side's not bad. On this side, this little part here where the fabric is peeling up a little bit, you know, it looks like it's peeling up a little bit. The inside is bright red and very cheerful. I got the hardware fairly clean. The handle up on top is pretty nice. You know, I think it's better than it was to start with. Perfect? No, but better, definitely a yes. So these are the decals that they go along with the ones on the base of the case over there. And I'm just going to center one of these. Let me see if I can raise you up here. Let's see here. Maybe that might work. Okay, so I'm just going to center these here on the front of each case. I need to measure and make sure I get the exact center point to center this little trunk up with. And again, water slide decals, so I'm just going to dunk them in water and then place them on here. Okay, so I've got my little tub of water right here. I'm going to dunk my decal into it. It's very, very wet. And place it, sorry about that, up here so it's centered. I need to move all this so I get a better view of it. That looks pretty good. And hopefully I'll be able to slide the entire backing off fairly easily. It's a very big decal. Okay, let me get a piece of paper towel here. And it has been a few days since I painted this, so the paint is very, very dry, so that's not a problem. Okay, there it is. I'm gonna do the other side and then let this dry, probably overnight, and we'll see how it looks in the morning. So while I was waiting for the decals to dry, I was looking at the motor foot pedal arrangement, and I decided to swap it out. And I found a little motor that's slightly less powerful. This one is a 3/4 amp, 0.76 amp, instead of a full 1 point something. This is a little much, I think, for our little machine. So I'm putting this one on, and I'm switching it out to a modern foot pedal, okay? What I have also done is you can adjust how far out the pulley is on the little shaft there, and I have it adjusted and this little bracket adjusted enough that I don't believe I'm going to need those little rubber washers as a shim to get it aligned. I think that this will align pretty well as is. But what I wanted to show you is it had, oh, let me see, where is the old pedal? Oh, it's over here. It had this old school pedal with a light motor block, okay? And one of the issues that made me want to switch everything over is that, first of all, this little bitty machine doesn't have a light, so, you know, that part is irrelevant at this point. It does have a motor, but I was not thrilled with this on the motor, you know, and I wanted to switch it out. But in order to switch it out, my replacement plugs, you know, they're polarized, where one side is larger than the other side, and that little light motor block is not. So I couldn't use it. So what I am doing is I have this foot pedal and this motor that I have scavenged from another machine at some point. I don't even remember when. And what I'm going to do is pull this little unit here off the motor, and that's what goes with this foot pedal. It's got the little 3-prong attachment. So I can disassemble it from this motor and then connect it to this. And that's going to omit the whole need for the big light motor block, which is a whole lot of wiring for a little machine that doesn't have a light. So that is what I am working on right now. I need to go back to the machine and figure out exactly where I'm going to be placing this and how long I need to cut this wire, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm just removing one wire at a time from here so that I can keep track of, you know, which one the neutral should go to and which one the other should go to. So I'm just going to remove a screw. And it looks like it has a little eyelet looking connector on there. I don't know the official word for those, of course. But I need to put a little end like this. If you can see that little eyelet-y looking part there. I need to put a couple of those type of connectors at the end here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I used the little solderless connectors, put a little shrink tubing over it. Got it all connected in here. Now I'm just going to put the little shield that was on there on. These bolts are what was securing it to the machine before, and I have these little wood screws, and I think that they're going to fit in the holes and be able to come down the bottom, so I can use these little wood screws then. You know, there's not much sticking out, but I think it's enough just to secure it to the side of my little case to hold it in place, so I can plug this wire for the foot pedal and, you know, power outlet in and out like so. Okay, so let me go see if I can get all of this screwed into the little case over there. I like it a whole lot better. I wish there was a source where you could buy these, honestly. Just this is so much less cumbersome, you know, than having to deal with this. If anyone knows of a source where you can buy just this type of component, or I could wire foot pedal and power cord to one side and motor to the other side and have it be this nice and dainty, I would love that if anyone knows of something like that. Right, so I got it kind of set in there. Let me see if I can tip it so you can see in the base. I have that little plug just screwed into the little bottom of the base there, where I can just plug the motor in, and then I plugged my foot pedal in, this little part here which goes in, and it is plugged into the wall, and I have my presser foot up, and she works great. This motor is actually much better size. This motor is actually much better size for her. The other one, it was too big, it didn't fit well, and it was giving her some jumpiness. And that issue that I had with her not wanting to start turning sometimes, this motor seems to be sized well enough that that's not an issue. No matter where I stop it, she's sewing. Well, I say that, but looks like I need to tighten up that belt or maybe replace it. This is the little stretchy belt that was on it when I got it. This little guy here, I might switch that out. Here, you can't even see it. This guy, I might switch that out for a different belt because it feels a bit loose with this other motor on it. But yeah, she's running great now. Machines that don't have an attached light, I have a couple of these. I have one in red, one in white and one in black, you know. And they just have a magnet on the back, so you turn on the little LED light and the magnet will pop it onto the motor casing. And now if I lower you, you can see I've got a light that I can direct anywhere I want to, and I am ready to sew. I'll show you, there was a sound it was making and I didn't recognize it, so I opened her up, and the way that this machine runs, it has a gear that's like a half moon here. I'll show you this way while she's still plugged in. Okay, so this gear that's like a half moon runs back and forth over this gear that's in a circle. And that is what makes its little gear kind of noise. I've oiled it and everything. I think it's working properly. It just has a different tone. So you can see that sound, it sounds like gears. That's what it is. It's this. It's functioning right. It's just because of this design, that's the noise it makes. So I'm going to pop it back down. Okay, so talking about what this machine can and cannot do. It can make a pretty darn nice straight stitch, and I'll show you that in just a moment. It can go forwards and backwards. It can operate in the front, the threading, the components like a real sewing machine, because it is very similar in the setup up here to a 15. And it's extremely lightweight compared to vintage sewing machines in general. I'll weigh it before I'm done and tell you the finished weight in case. It's simple enough. Someone learning could use it. It's light enough, in my opinion. Someone traveling to a place could use it. Or it can be a backup machine that is just for making quick repairs in the back of a shop or something, is what I'm thinking. But it's not a main machine. But I think it's adorable. And with the motor and the foot pedal, it's an excellent learning tool. And it does have the little bobbin winder up here that operates by just pushing it down, and it will engage with the little rubber belt. Let me lift up this. Oh, we'll just do it this way. Hang on. Let me disengage the, there. So now you can see the clutch works. When you disengage it, the little bobbin winder works. And it's just the simple, like on a 15, where you thread it to this point, down here under this thread guide, right there, and then back up. Very basic. So let me engage that back again. So that's my thoughts. I think it would be a fabulous learning to sew for a very young person machine, because it's not so huge that it's overwhelming, but at the same time it's really cute. So let me go ahead and get you close enough so you can see and hear how she stitches. And oh, the other thing is, as far as stitch length, it has this little stitch length, and down is forward, up is reverse. There's not a whole lot of leeway. There's no marks, no calibration and everything. So you don't have an extremely longest stitch, but you can go all the way down to 0, you know, but it's hard to get an exact point. But for just a basic stitch, back, forward, you know, and that's what we need 99% of the time anyway. So anyway, let me get started. I have a heavier weight fabric here. It's a home deck fabric. So I have my pink thread on the top and a white thread on the bottom. You can kind of see that pink thread. I'm going to tighten that tension up just a hair. To show you, I was having trouble getting my tension dialed in, and I actually ended up really cinching my upper tension in. It still wasn't working, so it had to be my bobbin. So I just came in here, and on the bobbin case there's this little screw. I just backed it off about a quarter turn. This is my fault for not checking ahead of time. But now I can feel that it is pulling at about the right tension. I don't have a scale that I'm using to test it, but in my opinion, if I'm holding it like this and I can bounce it, and there's enough tension that it'll hold it while it's hanging straight, but if I bounce it, it moves down a little bit, that's my gauge. So I think that it's a lot better. I'm going to go ahead and pop the bobbin back in and give it another go. Okay, so I just ran a test row, and I think we are good. So I'm going to go ahead now and show you what it sounds like. You need to make sure that you have, when there's an issue like that, the first thing I do is make sure my needle is correct, you know, that it's the right needle and it's turned the right way and all of that. And then I make sure nothing is jammed, and then if I can't get it corrected by my upper tension, then I hit my lower tension. But now that that is set, as long as I'm using or whoever is using a all-purpose thread, you shouldn't have to change that bottom setting. So it's forward. I'm going to lever it up to reverse. Lever it back to forward. So we're going to do about halfway to see if we can get a smaller stitch. Yes, a much smaller stitch. A smaller back stitch. Yes, and a big forward. She's very strong. I think reducing the motor size was a big help. This motor seems much better for it. The motor that was on it when I got her was not the original motor. So I'm thinking that it was probably sized a lot closer to this. So anyway, that is her. I think she is adorable. I think that she would be a great machine for a new person or a traveling person. I hope you like her. Thanks for watching.
touched her rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued, she'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years, and let her sew again.